I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in this state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this.
We have a new thing in LA called follow home robberies, where gang members stake out nice restaurants and then follow home the people who leave in expensive cars and force their way into their houses. That's why Paris Hilton now drives a 2009 PT Cruiser and eats at Sbarro.
Bill Maher has returned to rip Gavin Newsom to shreds with surgical accuracy, arguing that his failed governance is the primary engine behind California's decay. In this latest confrontation, Karen Bass is finding it impossible to escape the splash zone. Maher isn't just offering a light critique. He is systematically dismantling the hollow policies and virtue signaling that have turned the Golden State into a national cautionary tale. It is savage, it is hilariously on point, and he's taking no prisoners. Get ready, hit that subscribe button, and let's jump straight into the fire.
This year, the LA City Council voted that every homeless tent had to be removed from dozens of locations, yet every freeway overpass still looks like history's saddest Coachella. The homeless are both preyed upon and, frankly, a concern that they will do God knows what. You go out for a run in your neighborhood and you have to wonder whether that guy eyeing you on the corner is going to be this guy or this guy.
Maher starts off with the absolute firebrand topic: the explosive growth of homelessness paralyzing Los Angeles and California's urban hubs. He points out a glaring contradiction. Local governments, including LA's leadership, pass motions to sweep out the camps, yet the clusters of tents only seem to double overnight, reclaiming every sidewalk. Maher puts them on the spot. If these progressive strategies were effective, why is the crisis only intensifying? This is where Newsom and Bass take a direct hit. Critics are slamming Newsom's track record as a revolving door of massive spending and flashy photo ops that yield zero tangible results. Billions are poured into a black hole of bureaucracy while citizens watch their communities fall apart. Maher is giving a voice to the millions of residents trapped between their natural empathy and the surrounding lawlessness. His message is blunt. Noble intentions are worthless when the streets are in a death spiral and the leaders keep making excuses.
A day doesn't go by where you can't find video of the latest smash and grab robbery, where thieves in broad daylight just smash the front windows of ritzy stores and take all the jewelry they can carry. They went to Jared.
Maher then shifts his focus to a different kind of disaster: the surge in violent crime and the blatant looting paralyzing California's major cities. He notes that this societal breakdown wasn't a random accident. It was a predictable outcome of radical policy shifts. In Maher's view, the state has effectively surrendered to the criminal element, prioritizing the rights of offenders over the safety of the public. Thieves now walk out of storefronts with their arms full of stolen property, fully aware that the legal consequences are non-existent, while career criminals rotate through the court system with nothing more than a warning. He mocks the idea that leniency reduces crime, pointing out that it has actually served as an invitation for more chaos. Small businesses are locking their doors for good, neighborhoods are living in fear, and law-abiding families are stuck paying the price. As Maher puts it, mercy without justice only creates an environment where anarchy can flourish.
And when did they legalize shoplifting? There used to be shame in shoplifting, or at least some skill. Now criminals just brazenly walk out of Walgreens, again in broad daylight, with a trash bag full of aisle 3, while the security guard just watches. They have to keep even the most mundane products all caged up. CVS isn't a store, it's a zoo for teeth whitening strips.
Maher traces this current state of anarchy back to the specific decision to downgrade major thefts to mere misdemeanors. The original sales pitch was to reduce prison populations and focus on high-level offenses. But the actual result has been pure bedlam. Maher observes that the criminal element wasn't slow to catch on. Knowing the penalties were a joke, they began organized raids on retailers without a hint of fear. Those viral videos of smash and grabs have only confirmed that the rule of law has been castrated. Now, shops have been forced to turn into fortresses, locking up basic goods like soap, laundry detergent, and even food behind plexiglass. Customers are now forced to ring a bell and wait for an escort just to buy the basics. Maher's final judgment? This isn't social justice or reform. It is a total systemic betrayal of honest citizens while repeat criminals are allowed to dominate the landscape.
San Francisco in the last few years has seen 11 Walgreens and 6 CVS stores just give up and close because that town seems simply beyond law, which is heartbreaking because I, like so many people, love that city, and I don't think it's corny to admit, yes, I left my heart in San Francisco. Also my wallet and iPhone.
Maher didn't stop with the streets. He went after the terrifying security nightmare every Californian faces regarding their personal property and vehicles. He describes a scenario that has become a daily reality for many. You park your car for 5 minutes, and by the time you return, your windows are gone and your belongings have vanished. This wasn't the norm a decade ago, but auto thefts and smash and grabs have reached such a fever pitch that a simple trip to the store is now a high-stakes gamble. Los Angeles has recorded staggering numbers of vehicle-related crimes, securing its reputation as a haven for burglars. While San Francisco has seen minor fluctuations, its long-standing notoriety for property crime continues to fuel a sense of public panic. Maher isn't just throwing out numbers for shock value. He's showing how Californians are being held hostage by a leadership class that refuses to provide the basic safety they are paid to maintain.
Bay Area citizens have been complaining in recent years about all the human feces in the streets, but now the streets are full of something else. They call it San Francisco snow. It's glass, piles and piles of shattered glass everywhere from car windows being smashed. It's so routine to have this happen to any parked car that people purposefully leave the windows down and the glove compartment open so thieves can see there's nothing of value. Or they leave a note on the car politely assuring the thief that there's nothing worth stealing and please don't break the windows. Dear Mr. Criminal, I hope this note finds you well.
This is the new reality in the Bay Area, where the situation has become so absurd that car owners are now taping handwritten pleas to their windows, begging thieves not to break in because there's nothing left to steal. Maher notes that this isn't some quirky trend. It is the sound of a population that has reached its breaking point with a failing system. Law-abiding people are now being forced to adapt to the criminals instead of the government actually stopping the crime. In some areas, people are even leaving their windows rolled down. Not because they are forgetful, but because they are physically and financially exhausted from replacing shattered glass every week. They are footing the bill for radical policies they never asked for. Maher argues that this is the inevitable result of a government that has lost touch with the real world. When people feel abandoned by the law, they stop trusting the state and start doing whatever it takes to survive the disorder.
What is so disturbing here is not just that there's more crime and mayhem, it's the audacity of it all. Like there's no lines anymore that can't be crossed.
Maher warns that California is rapidly approaching a terminal tipping point where the public believes there is no longer a line between right and wrong because the consequences have evaporated. When the laws aren't enforced, social behavior begins to rot. What used to be considered a shocking crime is now an everyday occurrence, often filmed in broad daylight by thieves who don't even bother to wear masks. For the average person, this creates a toxic environment of resentment and powerlessness. They pay their taxes and follow the rules, yet they are the ones suffering the inconvenience and the danger. Meanwhile, the people breaking the social contract feel untouchable. Maher frames this not as a moral failure of the people, but as a fundamental failure of leadership. Once a government signals that the law is optional, the entire foundation of society begins to crumble. And once that rot sets in, it's much harder to rebuild than it would have been to just enforce the law in the first place.
It's also, yes, undeniably true that LA is built in a stupid place to build a city. But when it's not on fire, it's really quite lovely. And it's my home. And stupid as its origin may be, it's not going anywhere. Axios ran a story on how getting the water out of the hydrants in Pacific Palisades was more complicated than it seems. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in this state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this.
Maher is equally unsparing regarding the massive gap between the taxes Californians pay and the subpar services they receive in return. The state boasts some of the heaviest tax burdens in the nation, yet Maher points out that the return on investment is pathetic. With that much capital, the basic functions of the state should be world-class, but they are consistently dysfunctional. He uses the recurring wildfire crisis as a perfect example of this incompetence. Every single year, predictable fires incinerate entire communities, while the public watches the same preventable tragedy repeat itself. The response times are sluggish, the preparation is amateurish, and bureaucrats only show up to apologize after the damage is done. To Maher, this isn't a natural disaster, it's a management disaster. He asks the million-dollar question. How can a state with a massive budget surplus still be so hopelessly unprepared, leaving its citizens to fund a system that fails them the moment a crisis hits?
When asked why so many of the hydrants in the Palisades ran out of water, Governor Newsom said the local folks are trying to figure that out. Yeah, you got to do that before the fire. At least in the Palisades, the hydrants were still there. 300 other ones around the city are just gone, stolen for parts. One of the 3 reservoirs for the Palisades was offline at the one time of year when it was most needed. LA's Mayor Karen Bass, the Nero of American politics, was fiddling in Ghana while the city burned and later placed the blame on 8 months of negligible rain and winds that have not been seen in LA in at least 14 years. Yeah, that's not that long a time. Maybe look in the history books to see how our ancestors handled it back in 2011.
The thing that truly enrages Maher and millions of Californians is the never-ending cycle of the wildfire nightmare. Every season, homes are leveled and lives are shattered by preventable blazes. And every year, Maher notes, you'd think leaders like Newsom and Bass would actually implement a real strategy to break the cycle. Instead, we get the same tired routine. Ignored warnings, half-baked forest management, and a flurry of excuses once the smoke clears. Maher's anger isn't directed at the weather. It's directed at the refusal to adapt. Controlled burns and infrastructure hardening are discussed every summer, yet nothing actually changes before the next fire line approaches. He argues that at this point, the public expects the failure. For the residents, it is a cycle that is as expensive as it is predictable. Bill Maher's takedown of California is relentless because the evidence is undeniable. From the encampments in LA to the car break-ins in the north, the state is losing its way. Homelessness is out of control because the policies ignore the root causes, leaving the public feeling helpless. Crime is soaring because the laws have no teeth, turning basic shopping into a lockdown chore. Car owners are literally surrendering their property to avoid repair bills. And the annual fire season remains a testament to a state government that takes everything from its citizens but gives back very little in terms of security or service. Maher's point is final. Californians are paying for a premium experience but receiving a failed state. The anger is real, and Maher is delivering the truth with a sharp, unfiltered edge that cannot be ignored. That's our report for today. If you're tired of the excuses and want the real story, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.